Hello, everyone. My name is Benjamin, and welcome to our live stream today. Later on in the description, I'm going to post a link to my Patreon, and also in the comments, I'll pin one after I'm finished streaming, just to make sure that everybody gets it and everybody knows that I have a Patreon now. I'm not going to force you to, and I don't want you guys to contribute unless you can afford it. And also, don't do it if you're using your parents' money, as that's kind of like ridiculous and a little silly, to be quite honest with you. And I don't want to have angry parents coming at me saying, "Oh my God, your kid, contributed to, you know, to this, that, and the other thing." And yeah, I'd rather not deal with that whole I'd rather not open up that can of worms, so to speak. Anyway, so we're going to be talking about 538's model, and then covering the U.S. House elections, which I should probably pull up that interactive map. And let's start with the light model, which is forecast based off of what local and national polls say, which is surprisingly, the Republicans only have to win, I think, like 2 or 3 of these toss-up seats. Which is not that unbelievable. As a matter of fact, the Republicans are actually projected to pick up a few seats. In some places, and hold on to some. I think this map actually shows the Republicans winning in the light version, which I'm not going to be using the light version of their forecast, because I don't think it's going to do the absolute best job in forecasting what we should see. And yes, I know I'm using the map rather than the cartogram, but that's because they didn't do this well. I don't think they did the cartogram well enough, in my opinion. Plus, the map allows me to find districts a lot faster and see where I'm actually looking. Sure, it'll hurt when I get to a lot of these tiny districts, in which case I will switch to the cartogram in those instances, to demonstrate, or to say, hey, so let's look at, the Maryland or Philadelphia, or this is actually Virginia, but you get the point, right? And this is Jersey, which is tiny. This one's Illinois. But the map is so much easier to use, in my opinion. So we're going to go to the classic. And by the way, the light says the Republicans have about a 40% chance of keeping control, which I would even say that's based off of, actually, no, that's maybe a little bit too generous to the Republicans, but you never know. 25%, I think this is about reasonable where the classic is, though I'm surprised. Actually, I prefer the deluxe model. I think the classic is maybe a bit too heavy on the long tail that the Democrats have. I think the deluxe gives us a better indication of what it's going to be like. I think the tails are just too fat in the classic and light models. The belly of this one in the deluxe makes sense to me, though it does interestingly give Republicans a better chance, but not as good as the light. The classic says, yeah, there's no way in hell they're keeping it. Well, not really. That's editorializing and not something I'm a big fan of. The classic, I think it's like, yeah, Republicans are probably not going to do it. The deluxe is saying there's a not insignificant chance that the Republicans can actually maintain control. And as we can see, Gianforte keeps his seat, and the Democrats do flip a few seats here and there. Will Hurd, which I actually we'll get to where I'm going to put that one, because I actually think that Hurd is going to keep his seat. You see, and I agree with this, that Peterson's going to keep his seat. But surprisingly, these two are very close. And you look at this and you see, okay, by the way, this is where this is a district I live. Yeah. And I live pretty much smack dab in the middle of this district. So occasionally I do head on over to Tennessee. It's not uncommon for me to go to West Virginia, and it's actually surprisingly quite often I do head into Kentucky. But I try to take it easy just because gas is expensive, and I admit that I have a notorious lead foot. And this is where their model, and I'll get to this stuff. So let's look at this, how the forecast has changed. When they first released it about here, it was about 2/3. Democrats have improved, but that could narrow a lot, or it could stay the same. They're expecting 226 to 209. And the popular vote margin, they're expecting Democrats +7, which is just over. I think we should round this up to 6%. But they would be favored to win a majority of seats if they win the popular vote nationwide by 5.8%. And let's see. And they said they're going to release their Senate vote later. So let's actually look at some other things that might slightly factor in, which is Trump's approval rating, which is, it's still underwater, but by 11%. A lot of people are going to look at, there's one poll that I want to look at. Here it is, this one, which showed Trump 22 points under, or sorry, this one, which showed him 24 points underwater, and this one, which shows him 20 points underwater. This one's not much better at 16%, or 16 points underwater. The reason why I don't take much stock in these, even though this is an A+ pollster, is this is a poll of all adults. And the same thing with this one, is this is a poll of all adults. So that's why Trump's approval rating drops dramatically there. These polls of just all adults don't really capture the demographic. If you still want to factor them in, use the all polls. And yeah, admittedly, Rasmussen is included. Ugh. But you see a lot of people doing all adults, which doesn't really capture the voting demographic. You should always be looking and weighing more heavily polls of likely and or registered voters. I prefer likely voters, but I can accept registered voters as it's a surprisingly similar demographic. And this shows him no real changes, mid 40s and low to mid 40s. Whereas all adults, you see a lot of shift and a lot of just random outlying polls. There's a group around 41, 42, 43, and then all of a sudden you have ones that are in the mid 30s. That just doesn't make any dang sense. So this is why I prefer using likely and registered voters. And let's actually look at the generic ballot real quick, where Democrats have a 8 minus 6, so that should be a 9.4. Yeah, a 9.4% gap, which is more than enough for the Democrats to take the House under normal circumstances. So let's go to a few states that I want to look at. Alabama's not going to change. Alaska's not going to change. That won't affect Arizona, where I'm looking at. Arkansas, California, I think that will flip. I just want to look. The LA area, I'm actually willing to flip that one and flip this one. Anything else? And we'll go ahead and actually just flip this one just for the effect. Colorado, do I have anything? I'm actually going to flip this one based off of the generic poll. Florida is surprisingly not going to change. Carlos Curbelo is actually fairly safe. You can believe that. In Georgia, Handel's seat isn't really under that much of a threat. We're going to go down to Illinois. And we'll flip Bo's seat just to illustrate the point that the Democrats have a very good chance of winning. Oops. And this seat I could see flipping given the generic ballot lead, though it does include polls of all adults. I'm not going to really worry about that because truth is there is enough of a gap that I don't think it's worth it to argue. 538 actually shows the Democrat in this seat winning. I'll go ahead and flip it for the sake of argument. I still don't see that seat flipping in Maine. Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, I think has 1 or 2 seats that could flip. Yeah, the 8th district, I think it's not unreasonable that that could flip. Minnesota is weird as there is a not insignificant chance that the Republicans actually do better in Minnesota and to actually take control of that state's delegation. I kind of find that hilarious, but at the same time, completely realistic. The next state that I think has room to flip is New York. I think it's okay. I think I've already taken care of what New York's. North Carolina, there's a not insignificant chance that the Republicans keep that one, but North Dakota, that's not going to change. Ohio, looking at Ohio, I don't really see any of this changing. Maybe this 1st district. Oops, not that. Flipping to the Democrats. It does have Cincinnati, so I don't think that's unreasonable. Oklahoma is weird as there's 1 or 2 districts in here that stand a decent chance of flipping just because weirdness. Oregon, none of that's going to change. Let's go to Pennsylvania, where Connor Lamb is actually going to run in this one instead of this one, but the seat's going to flip regardless. Connor Lamb actually has a good chance of winning this seat. I don't think this is an unreasonable map as it stands. The next one we'll look at Tennessee. I forget whether okay, that one's none of that's competitive. So I guess Texas, the rest looks fairly safe. What I remember. I'll go ahead and flip Will Hurd's seat just for the sake of argument. even though I don't think that's going to change. I think we're okay there. Oh, you didn't miss much. Just going over what I thought about 538's model. Not much is up. This is going to be kind of a shorter live stream just because I do unfortunately have some stuff to take care of today. But I do want to cover the House race and maybe talk about the governor's races. Well, actually, I did that on Friday. What am I? I'm going crazy here. Let's look at Virginia, I guess. Not much is happening here. Yeah, that's expected to flip if I remember correctly. Yeah, that all looks good. Oops. And then Wisconsin. So it's actually strange, but the Republicans are still expected to hold on to. Will Arizona flip for the Democrats in the Senate in November? Yeah, probably. Kirsten Sinema is probably going to beat Martha McSally, but I don't know. But it's really weird. This seat that's held by Paul Ryan is somehow expected to stay with the Republicans, but whatever. So we're going to zoom back out to the United States, take a look at it. This is kind of where I feel the map is going to be come January as it stands. I don't want to speculate about what McCain's death is going to do. I don't think it'll matter even if I did want to speculate on it. I just kind of feel really dirty talking in any sort of way about how McCain's passing will affect politics. It feels like sensationalism reporting at its worst. And it feels immoral, you know. And this is what the House delegation from everywhere probably will look. Minnesota is one I'm not 100% sure about. This district here in Texas, I'm not 100% sure about. This district in Kentucky, and this district in Illinois. Other than that, I don't really see too much super crazy with this, but the Democrats aren't going to have some monumental lead. Let's actually look at the pundit forecasts real quick. So this is the Sabato crystal ball. Of course, they have a ton of toss-up races because they like doing toss-ups. This is inside elections. This one's the Cook political report. 538 runs based off of percentages. They're using the classic version. I prefer the deluxe, but whatever. Oh, yeah, no, it's completely understandable. I could see it being closer, and I could see it being much, much wider. It really just depends on how energized Democrats are across the nation rather than on the coasts. And I'm not sure how energized they're going to be. It seems like most of the energy the Democrats have are on the coasts or in these really weird special elections where Republicans just shoot themselves in the foot. But it is funny that inside House elections actually gives the House to the Republicans already as it stands. Oh, I agree. Democrats are, I think, underestimated, but I also think that it's not unreasonable to assume that the Republicans can keep the House and Senate, which I'd be surprised, to be honest, but I don't think it's impossible or just not going to happen. Let's go ahead and look at some of the pundit forecasts for the Senate. Crystal ball, inside elections. I'm surprised they're tilting West Virginia and Montana, but I don't think they've updated it yet. I'm actually surprised by how many people are only leaning or having it as a toss-up West Virginia. because I think West Virginia is more often than not going to go to Joe Manchin. Yeah, it depends on the person and which state and various other factors. The demographic breakdown of that seat or that state or that district. Okay, that's not an unreasonable map. That's reasonable. That map looks reasonable by Cook. Okay, yeah, that looks about right. And that is actually surprisingly generous to the Republicans. Let's look at a historic election or two, because why not? Let's look at 84, just for laughs. So, as we all know, in 1984, Ronald Reagan was running for re-election, and his opponent was Walter Fitz Mondale, who, as we can clearly see, got demolished. But this map doesn't tell you the whole story. This map tells you just how badly Mondale got crushed. He only won his home state of Minnesota and the District of Columbia. And he won Minnesota by, if I remember correctly, something like 3,700 votes across the entire state of Minnesota. So, yeah, it did not end well for him. And as you can see, any state that was more than 15% in favor for Reagan is in this deep, dark, dark red. The next color is this this also deep, dark red, which maybe, but I don't think Romney would have won the nomination in 1968. Nixon was kind of a force to be reckoned with. But the funny thing about that, let's actually go to let's go to 1968 and talk about that one. Since you've been asking about it a little bit, let's talk about it. As we all know, we're gonna just hop on over here. Let's go to the Republican primary. You had George Romney, who didn't really do that much in the primary. As a matter of fact, he was very far behind. And the reality is, I don't think he would have. I really do not think he would have won the nomination. You know, Ronald Reagan was competing, you know. Oh God, if we forgot about that. He was a Democrat. And then he was the only Democrat who officially switched parties. Yeah, looking at this, he wasn't really the front runner. Now, okay. Yeah, Romney had one big gaffe, and that kind of killed it. Yeah, Nixon is interesting. there was a lot of good things he did, but he's always going to be remembered for Watergate. Okay, so let's pretend that George Romney didn't have that massive gaffe and was able to point out that Richard Nixon, he earned his nickname of Tricky Dick. Well, let's see if they have any polls or anything. Mhm. Hmm. And there goes my phone. Yay. Huh. Yeah, reading this and looking at it, we're seeing that Humphrey just wasn't popular at all. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Hubert Humphrey just wasn't popular, and we also have to remember George Wallace really really split a lot of votes. Hmm. And looking at this, now they say it was close, but if we actually look at, well, the electoral vote was, what was the exact total? Yeah, it was 301 to 191, with 46 going to George Wallace. And we go back, this is what the map looked like. The truth is, it would have been a rout had Wallace not run. Oh. And likely a state like Texas, very potentially West Virginia and Maryland, without a split conservative vote, would have all given their votes to Nixon. And this is probably what you would have gotten. Okay, actually, let's go ahead and talk about that. Since we've got nothing else to do, and I'll probably stop at one because I do need to do some stuff. Uh, when's the earliest a 500 plus electoral college landslide could happen in our lifetime? Let's start with that one. Not soon, if that's what you're asking. Goodness gracious, no, I'm not donating to Planned Parenthood. Jesus Christ. So I'm going to bring up a blank map. So let's see what it would take for either party to. Let's start with the Republicans since they're first on the color thing. Let me make sure we're there. Okay, good. I said with maybe. So for the Republicans to get 500 electoral votes, let's give them Trump's 2016 map first, right? And this is going to assume no faithless electors, okay? And I'm missing something. Alaska. Okay, so we need to start by giving the Republican all the states that were within 5% first, right? I'm going to ignore this district for now. Okay, this only puts them to 328. Now we're going to have to go with any state that was somewhat, sorry, I did forget about Colorado. 337. Now we're going to have to go to any state that was within 10. Still only puts them at 355. However, if we extend it to 15, all of a sudden we get Oregon, we get New Jersey, we get Connecticut, we get Delaware. It actually puts them up at 386. This is just going to show you how difficult it is to reach 400 electoral votes for the Republicans. Let's extend it to 20%. I don't think that actually adds anything. It probably in Washington, if I remember correctly. The next most likely states that would flip would probably be Rhode Island. You'd probably get Maryland, Illinois, and then New York and Massachusetts at the same time. You're still at 473, and unfortunately, to reach that 500, Republicans actually need California, just based off of the likelihood. So these states are just so blue, I'm not sure. We'll go ahead and give the benefit of the doubt for Vermont. But it's very possible that Republicans, at least for now, don't have. Yeah, exactly. At least for now, I don't see it as truly likely that the Republicans have a realistic path to 500. 400, they actually do have a very realistic path to 400. I don't think it wouldn't shock me a tremendous amount to see the Republican get to 400 if things go the correct way. I mean, it would be a large lift, but I don't think it's impossible. It would just look something similar to like this, right? So let's go back to a blank map, right? And let's look at what the Democrats would need. No. This is what it would take to reach 500. So let's go ahead and give the Democrats every state that Clinton won in 2016. One Minnesota, one Illinois, New York, Vermont, here. And these two, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And as you can see, there's a lot of states for her to improve, but I look at them, there's not much room. Let's go ahead and give her any state that was within 5% of her winning it. So that's Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Florida, Arizona, and apparently I was wrong, this district in Nebraska. Okay, now let's go anything within 10%. Now this puts her already above 330 votes, okay? That would be Texas, actually not Indiana, Ohio, Iowa, Georgia. And that puts her over 412. And this actually points to something. It might be easier for the Democrats to reach 500 than the Republicans. And it's definitely actually easier for the Democrats to reach 400, in my opinion. Anything under 15%, if I remember correctly. South Carolina may have been under 10. 15%, I don't think you're going to get much of a change except maybe these states. I don't remember, but those states would probably flip to Democrats first. Now I'm just going to flip all of that. Nebraska would probably turn blue under normal circumstances, except maybe that. I think it's the 3rd district that is the super Republican one. Indiana would go blue before a lot of places. So would Mississippi. Alaska would as well. Kansas, surprisingly. West Virginia might. We'll go ahead and flip that district as well. Really, you only need 25 votes. Tennessee, maybe. Kentucky. And then we'll give them Arkansas. And then the rest of this we'll just leave as Republican to show you that, yes, the Democrats probably have an easier time getting right up there to 500, but actually crossing that line is difficult. So the Republicans, their path is difficult and probably much more so than the Democrats' path, but it's about the same difficulty throughout. Whereas the Democrats, they have an easy time reaching 300. They have a very easy time reaching 300. They have an easy time reaching 400. But as you start getting more and more votes, it starts getting harder and harder. The difficulty the Republicans have is that all the states that they need to flip once they reach about their current max, which is, I'd say, about here. This is about the Republicans' current max. Once they reach about 350, every single vote they reach for is very difficult. It's about the same level of difficulty, just with a few states being exceedingly difficult. Whereas the Democrats, if they reach their current peak, which I think is actually of reasonably flippable states, which is about 358. Well, we'll go ahead and throw in this district. Their road starts getting incredibly difficult. These states are difficult to flip. This is difficult to flip. This is very difficult to flip. Missouri is difficult. Texas is difficult. Alaska is difficult. Nebraska is a massive lift. Kansas, Tennessee, Mississippi. These are all very difficult states to flip to the point where reaching, and they're also not worth a lot. It's just very difficult for that to happen. So that's kind of why I say that I don't think it's going to happen for a long time. It probably will happen by the time I'm 70, but yeah. And somebody said something with, well, Texas and Oklahoma take off, add them together and take off 2, so 43. And yeah, Trump would win it very bigly to make that joke with a straight face. Really? Do they have pun? Okay, no, this is 2016. That's funny. And they still have the simulation going. That's hilarious. I just switched that to poll closing time, but that's hilarious that they still have the 2016 simulation. Said, I do think Trump should be considered the favorite to win 2020. Yeah, look at this simulation. That totally makes sense. This actually looks reasonable so far. Okay, yeah. Okay, this all looks like it makes sense, yeah? Yeah, that actually looks like something that looks correct. I loved how the simulation sometimes does really weird things. Because it gets really weird sometimes the way the map actually puts it. Okay, this one wasn't too weird, but I kind of like that. Yeah, exactly. It would take some really monumentally impossible. It would take a lot of things for anyone to reach 500. This is a bit of an anomaly, and so is Michigan. Okay, this all looks reasonable. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, in the comments, guys, I want to ask you guys a question. By the way, I'm going to be putting, yeah, exactly what you said, Ryan Knight, about a jailed president and a devastating war. So just again to remind you guys, I'm going to put a link to my Patreon in the comments, as well as update the description, because that needs to happen. Once the stream is done, obviously, I'm not going to do that while I'm on stream. I just kind of blanked and forgot to do that. Again, the rules are basically for that is basically if you want to contribute, contribute. If you don't, don't. And don't use anyone else's money. Obviously, I don't want to have to deal with people being like, "Oh my God, people donated using my money. Can you give it? Can you give it back to me?" I mean, obviously, I will. I just don't want to deal with that. um, it'd be nice if I got enough contributions to where I could actually buy a new mic. Is mine is busted. I had a really good mic and it kind of broke for some reason. I mean, I had it for like 5 years or whatever. So to be expected. To be expected. Um, but I want to ask you guys a question. How would you like me to do a YouTuber, an election YouTuber mock election sort of thing, where I kind of discuss, like, go in and research each YouTuber's best, given the information they've given, and what their political beliefs are and where they're biased, and then sort them into parties and then have them do primary, and then kind of set them up and research what a primary between all of them would look like, and culminating with me doing an election night for the people who wind up winning the Republican and Democrat nomination. um, I think it'd be cool. I might bring in some guests for that series if I can work it out and hash it out with them. I think that'd be cool, and it would give a different change of pace. Um, and we can even go and talk about, how the name recognition factor will play into things, because name recognition would definitely matter. I'd probably be the equivalent of a small state governor, like say West Virginia or something. Stellar Spark would probably be, the equivalent of like I don't know. We'll put him in Pennsylvania, but we'll go with our home state. I'd probably be the representative. Well, yeah, exactly. We'll come up with maybe even fake job descriptions for them just to make it, a little more realistic. Um, but yeah, I think that'd be pretty fun. Just let me know if that'd be a good idea. Let me know in the comments who should be included, what party they should be in, and maybe give them a role fitting to their channel size, as well as whether they seem to be more the type that wants to sit and debate things or just wants to get a lot done or whatever. Like, I'm the type of person I would not want to sit in the Senate all day long and just sit on my hands and listen to people debate and deal with leadership. I'd rather just sit in the governor's office and every bill that gets to my desk say veto and just stick it in my pocket, and then the night before it passes because I said nothing, send it back to them, and then they don't have time to debate it and override my vetoes. Oh God, no, I would not. No, not Stein versus Harris. No, please, no. I do not want to do that. Partially because there's no GOP candidate. I think it's a little ludicrous that would even be a suggestion. I don't like leaving out major parties, as I think it doesn't do justice to the candidate. You'd have about half the electorate saying, "No, I'm not voting," in that scenario, and you'd essentially have Democrats controlling literally everything. And since both of them are progressive, I think you maybe only have maybe 20, no, not even. You probably maybe have 10% of the electorate voting in places like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina. You probably have maybe 10% of 2016's voter turnout in that case, just because of how most of the Democrats wouldn't want to vote for either candidate, and no Republican would vote in that election. So it wouldn't, yeah, exactly, if even that. The Democrats are just too conservative in these places. You look at it even where I am, where it was considered surprising that Flacavento won. In my congressional district, it's surprising that Flacavento won the nomination for the Democrats in the House race, considering how conservative Democrats are down here. Anyway, so I'm going to need to go because I got to make lunch and then clean up a little bit and then go to league bowling because that's what I do. Take it easy, everyone. Have a nice day. I'll see you all next time. Bye.